Okay, I told you I would show how I tie a fly with a brush. First of all, I want to show you the actual brush that I just made. You can see here, you can see the barring, and you can see the sparkle in it. That's from the light bright dubbing we put in. Okay, so, and you can see it's just twisted up nice and tight on there. Okay, so back to here we go, the vise. What I've got in here, I'm going to tie a shrimp pattern. I like shrimp. So what I've got is a number two, stainless steel saltwater hook. I'm going to be using white 3/0 wax monocord, and I'm just going to start by laying a thread base down on the hook. Doesn't have to cover it completely because the brush is going to cover most of that, and I will cut the tag in there. Now for the shrimp, I'm going to need to tie in some eyes, and these are a pair that I made not long ago. They're basically let me find it. Here, I get this. There we go. They're beads on mono that have a coating of Sally Hansen's and super glue. So that's the eyes I'll be using today. I'm going to, sometimes I'll put them in just like this. I'll tie them in that way, but I'm going to go ahead and cut them into where there are two separate eyes here, and I'm going to tie one on each side of the hook. I've put a small bend in it, you can see there, and I'm going to tie that right at that bend, and that comes up almost to the eye of the hook. I'm going to tie this in loose wraps, keeping it on the side of the hook, and then I'll put the other one in on this side closest to me the same way. I'm going to want that up on the side of the hook, not the top. Wrap it a couple times, I can move it back down and get it on the side. That's what I'm doing, is making a flatter body, not so much a big profile up top, but a wider profile. So now once I get those in, take them down to the bend of the hook, and you see they got close together, but we can just bend them back out, and we'll put some stuff in between them later. Okay, so now what we need to do is tie in some tentacles. I use this paintbrush is what I'm going to use today. Sometimes I use bucktail, but I like the fibers on this. They're nice and stiff, and there's a few long and some short. So I'll use those, just a regular paintbrush. Now what I want them to do is go down. This is going to be the top of the hook. It's going to be a floating shrimp, not a one on the bottom. So we're going to tie these right down on top of the hook, right on top of that platform we made with those eyes. Spread it out just a hair, and then we can tie them down, keep them on top. And then I'm going to come down really tight on. I'm going to go underneath the eyes here, which will spread them a little bit, just like this, and that'll also bring those tentacles down. And then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to cover that, lock it in a little better, and I just broke the thread. That's one problem I have. I get too close to that hook point when I'm tying sometimes. Alright, so let's go ahead and get back with that, and I'll cut that tag in off in a minute. Alright, we're back up here at the front. Get rid of these tags. 1, 2. Now I'm going to tie in a little bit of orange crystal flash, or crystal dubbing. Chenille, excuse me. It's a crystal chenille. I'm going to tie it in up here at the top And what I'm going to do is wrap it down around, also under the eyes, like this. And what I'm trying to do is give it just a little hot spot there. I've got one of the antenna in there. I'll cut that out in just a second. Just a hot spot. I'm going to cut that thread again. Get rid of this and get rid of that. There. So now we've got our eyes, tentacle, our feelers, and a little hot spot. What I'm going to do now is put some legs in it. Now, as you can see, what I use for legs is the spinner bait skirts, the silicone, and I'm just going to tie those in right on top, have them hang over the side right there. I'm going to bring them around once that way, once this way, open this up where it's still together, and there's my legs about right there, and there's a couple wraps, lock them in. There we go. Now I'm going to hit, while I'm at this point, this back portion with super glue, just to give it a little stronger backbone right across the top of that. And you notice those are silicone legs, not rubber, because the rubber would have really been messed up if I touched it with super glue. But now I can arrange those legs a little bit and they'll stay where you put them. Now we're ready to use our dubbing brush. Okay. What I did once I finished this off, I just tied a knot in the end of it, and to keep it from unraveling. Now I'm going to go from that side. I'm going to cut the brush. I'm going to cut just the end of the brush off, and I'm going to push back some of the fibers. I'm going to run this all the way to the back, right here, and then back all the way to the front. No, sorry, I want to start just right at the front. So I'm going to tie that little tit in there, get a good couple wraps on it, and bend it back, and go back over it again. That locks it in where it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, now I'm going to run this down to here, let it hang. Now I'm going to palmer this. As I tie it. I want the fibers going forward and not all clumping up on top of each other. I'm going to go a couple wraps right here at the beginning to get a good coverage on there. And as you'll see, once we start brushing it out later, it'll take the shape of the shrimp a bit more. But basically, it's just palmering it, just like any hackle, pulling it forward, pulling it down, coming down the body. I'll clear out hook in a minute. Get all the way down to right here at the end. And I'm going to throw a couple wraps over it, just like that. Then lock it in. And I'm going to bring it forward and lock it in. And then I'm going to cut the wire right there. Now when I cut the wire, I didn't cut the fibers, you see. So I left some fibers, and we'll just kind of brush those out as the tail. Now what I want to do is tie this down. That piece that we're going to use for the tail, I'm going to double it, bring it back under, tie it down, and pull it back on top. We'll deal with that in just a minute. But now I'm about ready to tie off. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to put a weed guard in. I use the 7-strand nylon coated red wire. It's a leader for toothy critters. And I'm just going to put a little bend in it right there. I'm going to set that bend right on where my tie down point is. Start right at the corner. I'm just going to tie that right in. Now that's not a lot to hold up. You see it's coming right back out there. I can bend it up. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish off. I didn't bring my whip finish tool back here. I'm in the back room because I can set up my camera easier, whereas in my office I can't really get a good... I don't want to clean my office to do this right now. So now I'm going to hit that with super glue. And that is the tying portion of the program. Everything else is just the shaping. Okay, what I'm going to do is clear this area here in front of the hook. So we've got a good there. Now, this tail, I'm just going to clip it off so it's a tail. It's not blocking my hole so I can get my leader through. Now I'm just going to take my brush the fibers forward, just like that. And now what you've got, you shape it a little bit. If you've ever seen the Flashabou shrimp or whatever they call it, where they just take the Flashabou and do this with, they hit it with little UV clear goo and give it a carpus up here, the point. You can do that, or you can, I'm going to fish it like this and see how that works. I think I'll get more movement out of it. And there is the shrimp. Can you see that? Let's see if I can get a better on it. No, that's probably about it. That's about it. I can move it closer this way, and there's the shrimp. Easy, made with that dubbing brush that I made earlier. That's it. Find the off button.